The wreckage drifted through the asteroid field like a metallic ghost, its alien hull reflecting the distant starlight in patterns that hurt to look at directly. Commander Kalen Voss pressed his face against the observation deck's reinforced viewport, watching as his salvage team's torches carved through what remained of the mysterious vessel. 3 months had passed since the automated distress beacon had led them here, to the edge of charted space, where something extraordinary waited in the cosmic debris. "Sir, you need to see this." The voice belonged to Zephyr Blackstone, the lead engineer whose reputation for coaxing miracles from scrap metal had earned her a place on this classified expedition. Her usually steady hands trembled as she held a data pad displaying preliminary scans. "The metal composition, it's not just unknown, it's impossible. The molecular structure defies everything we understand about physics." Voss turned from the viewport, his weathered face creased with concern. The Terran Defense Coalition had sent him to investigate what appeared to be the remnants of an alien conflict, but what they'd found challenged humanity's understanding of the universe itself. The ship's design spoke of a civilization so advanced that their technology appeared almost magical, and yet something had destroyed them completely. Dr. Nix Reardon emerged from the artifact analysis chamber, her dark eyes wide with a mixture of fear and excitement. As the Coalition's foremost xenotechnology specialist, she had spent her career studying theoretical alien science, never expecting to encounter the real thing. "Kalen, we're looking at technology that's at least 1,000 years ahead of our most advanced theories. The power source alone could revolutionize everything we know about energy generation." The expedition's chief scientist, Thane Meridian, joined them at the viewport, his silver hair catching the harsh light of the work lamps illuminating the alien wreck. His analytical mind had been working overtime since they'd first detected the anomalous readings. "The question that troubles me most," he said quietly, "is what could possibly destroy something this advanced? If this represents the pinnacle of their technology, and it wasn't enough to save them." Voss felt a chill that had nothing to do with the recycled air of the research vessel. Intelligence reports had been filtering in from the outer colonies for months, describing attacks by unknown entities that left entire systems silent. Ships that went to investigate simply vanished, adding to the growing list of mysteries that kept him awake at night. The timing of this discovery felt less like coincidence and more like a desperate message from the dead. "How much of the ship is intact?" Voss asked, though he suspected he might not like the answer. Zephyr consulted her readings, her engineering mind already calculating possibilities. "The primary hull is compromised, life support systems are completely destroyed, but the core engineering sections, they're almost untouched. It's as if whatever attacked them specifically avoided damaging the most important technology." The implications hung in the air like a poison gas. Dr. Reardon voiced what they were all thinking: either they wanted to preserve the technology for study, or they wanted us to find it. Voss made the decision that would change the course of human history. "Begin full salvage operations. I want every component cataloged and transported to Research Station Omega-7. And Dr. Meridian," he turned to the chief scientist, "I want your best theoretical team working on this around the clock. If there's even a chance we can understand this technology." "Sir," interrupted Alicia Crane, the expedition's lead pilot, her voice crackling through the comm system from the shuttle bay. "I'm detecting movement in the outer system. Multiple contacts, moving fast, and they're not broadcasting any identification signals." The bridge fell silent except for the hum of life support systems. Voss felt the weight of command settle on his shoulders like a familiar burden. "How long until they reach us?" 18 hours, sir. Maybe less." Voss looked once more at the alien wreckage, its twisted hull plates reflecting the lights of their salvage operation. Whatever had destroyed this advanced civilization might be coming for them next, and humanity's only hope might lie in the secrets hidden within that dead ship. The race against time had begun, and the stakes couldn't be higher. "All teams, this is now a priority salvage operation. We have 18 hours to strip everything of value from that wreck. Move like your lives depend on it, because they probably do." The research bays of Station Omega-7 hummed with desperate activity as humanity's brightest minds struggled to comprehend technology that seemed to mock the laws of physics. Zephyr Blackstone hadn't slept in 36 hours, her calloused hands moving delicately over alien components that pulsed with their own internal light. Each piece she examined revealed new impossibilities, materials that shouldn't exist, energy patterns that defied conventional understanding. The power coupling just responds, she muttered to herself, watching as her touch caused dormant alien circuits to flicker to life. It's almost like it's organic, like it's thinking. She'd been an engineer for 20 years, had built fusion reactors and quantum drives, but this technology made her feel like a child playing with toys she didn't understand. Across the bay, Dr. Thane Meridian bent over a spectral analysis display that showed readings his instruments couldn't properly interpret. The alien metal seemed to exist in multiple dimensional states simultaneously, its atomic structure shifting between configurations that should have been mutually exclusive. "Nix," he called to his colleague, "come look at this. The molecular bonds are rebuilding themselves in real time." Dr. Nix Reardon approached, her expertise in xenobiology providing a unique perspective on the technological artifacts. Unlike her colleagues who saw only advanced engineering, she recognized patterns that reminded her of living tissue. "What if we're approaching this wrong?" she suggested, her voice tight with exhaustion. "What if this isn't just technology? What if it's some kind of symbiotic relationship between machine and organism?" The observation struck Zephyr like a lightning bolt. She'd been trying to reverse engineer the components using traditional methods, but what if the key was biological integration? "That would explain the responsiveness," she said, excitement overriding her fatigue. "The technology doesn't just need power, it needs a living interface." Commander Voss entered the research bay, his uniform wrinkled from the long hours of coordinating the analysis effort. The weight of command had aged him visibly in the past week, and the preliminary reports from the Outer Rim colonies only added to his burden. 3 more systems had gone silent, and the pattern of destruction matched exactly what they'd found at the alien wreck site. "What's our progress?" he asked, though the strain in his voice suggested he already feared the answer. Thane straightened from his analysis station, his scientific objectivity warring with the urgency of their situation. "We're making breakthroughs, but each answer leads to 10 new questions. The technology appears to be based on principles we don't even have names for yet. Quantum mechanics becomes more like quantum biology at this level of advancement." Voss felt the familiar knot of responsibility tighten in his stomach. "How long before we can produce something useful? A weapon system, defensive technology, anything that might help our colonies?" Zephyr looked up from the alien component she'd been studying, her eyes reflecting both exhaustion and determination. "Sir, I think we're approaching this wrong. We've been trying to copy their technology, but what if we adapt it instead? Use human engineering principles as a foundation and integrate their innovations?" The concept was radical, potentially dangerous, but it offered something their current approach didn't: hope. Dr. Reardon nodded slowly, her mind already working through the implications. "A hybrid system. Human technology enhanced with alien innovations. It's risky, but it might be our only option." "Risky how?" Voss asked, though he suspected he already knew. Thane's expression grew grave. "The alien technology appears to require some form of biological interface. If we're wrong about the integration process, the results could be unpredictable. We might be looking at everything from system failures to biological contamination." The research bay fell silent except for the subtle hum of the alien artifacts, their internal light pulsing in patterns that almost seemed to respond to the conversation. Voss watched the play of light across the strange metal surfaces and made another decision that would reshape humanity's future. Do it. Begin development of a hybrid system immediately. Focus on creating a prototype that we can test safely. He paused, looking at each member of his team. "And I want volunteers for the biological interface testing. People who understand the risks." Zephyr stepped forward without hesitation. "I'll do it, sir. I've been working with these components longer than anyone. If anyone's going to interface with this technology, it should be me." Voss felt a mixture of pride and dread as he looked at his lead engineer. The courage of humans in the face of the unknown had always amazed him, but he'd never imagined asking someone to literally merge their biology with alien technology. The bio-integration chamber hummed with energy that made the air itself taste of copper and ozone. Zephyr Blackstone lay on the examination table, neural interface cables snaking from the modified alien components to contact points along her spine and temples. Her vital signs displayed on monitors around the room, each heartbeat a reminder of how far they were pushing the boundaries of human endurance. "Neural activity is off the charts," reported Dr. Reardon, her voice tight with concern as she monitored the biological readings. "Zephyr, can you hear me? How are you feeling?" Through the haze of the alien interface, Zephyr's consciousness expanded in ways that language couldn't properly describe. She could feel the technology responding to her thoughts, her emotions, her very life force. It was like suddenly being able to see colors that had never existed before, or hearing music in mathematical equations. I can understand it," she whispered, her voice carrying an odd harmonic resonance. "It's not just technology. It's art. It's philosophy. It's a way of seeing the universe as a living system." Dr. Thane Meridian observed from the control station, his instruments barely able to measure what was happening. The energy readings suggested that Zephyr was somehow accessing data streams that existed outside normal spacetime, tapping into information networks that span galactic distances. "The power output is stabilizing, but it's drawing energy from sources we can't identify." Commander Voss watched from the observation gallery, his military mind cataloging both the potential and the dangers of what they were witnessing. If they could harness this technology, humanity might have a chance against whatever had destroyed the alien civilization. If they couldn't control it, they might be unleashing something far worse than any external threat. "Zephyr, we need you to focus on the weapon systems," Voss instructed through the intercom. "Can you access their defensive technologies?" The response came not just in words but in a flood of technical data that bypassed conventional language entirely. Zephyr's consciousness merged with the alien databank, and suddenly she could see the blueprint for weapons that could reshape matter at the subatomic level, shields that existed in folded space-time, and propulsion systems that traveled through dimensions humans hadn't even theorized. "My God," she breathed, her voice carrying new harmonics that made the equipment around her resonate. They didn't just build technology. They grew it. Each ship, each weapon system, is a living entity in its own right. That's why it responds to biological interfaces. We're not operating machines, we're forming partnerships with artificial life forms. Dr. Reardon's readings showed neural activity patterns unlike anything in medical literature. "Zephyr, your brain is forming new neural pathways in real time. The alien technology is literally rewiring your nervous system to accommodate new forms of consciousness." The implications were staggering. This wasn't just reverse engineering, this was evolution, forced and accelerated beyond natural limits. Thane's scientific mind recoiled from the implications even as his theoretical understanding exploded with new possibilities. "Commander, we need to consider the long-term effects. We don't know what this integration might do to our humanity." But Zephyr was already beyond such concerns. Through the alien interface, she could see the approaching threat that had destroyed the original builders of this technology. They were coming, entities of pure malevolence that consumed entire civilizations not for resources or territory, but for the simple joy of ending life itself. And she could see humanity's only hope, a warship unlike anything ever conceived, a fusion of human ingenuity and alien artistry. "I can show you how to build it," she said, her consciousness now permanently intertwined with the alien systems. "A ship that's not just a weapon, but a guardian. Something that can fight them on their own terms." Voss made the hardest decision of his career. "Begin construction immediately. Whatever the cost, whatever the risks, we build this ship." As the alien technology flowed through Zephyr's transformed consciousness, she began to understand the true tragedy of the civilization they'd discovered. They had been guardians too, protectors of countless worlds, until the darkness found them. Now that responsibility would fall to humanity, and she would be the bridge between two civilizations separated by death and time. The construction would require sacrifices none of them could yet imagine, but the alternative was the silence of extinction. The construction yards of Station Omega-7 had been transformed into something that resembled a cathedral more than a shipyard. Massive biomechanical fabricators grew the hull of humanity's new warship from alien-influenced materials that shifted and flowed like living tissue. Zephyr Blackstone, her consciousness now permanently interfaced with the alien technology, guided the construction process with an intimacy that transcended traditional engineering. The hull's taking shape faster than our projections indicated, reported Chief Constructor Orion Darkwater, his weathered face reflecting both amazement and concern. It's almost like the ship wants to be built. The materials are self-organizing in ways that shouldn't be possible. Voss stood on the observation platform, watching as humanity's hope took form in the zero-gravity construction bay. The ship bore little resemblance to traditional human vessels. Its lines were organic, flowing like water frozen at the moment of perfect motion. Bioluminescent patterns ran along its hull like neural pathways, pulsing with energy that seemed to respond to the emotions of those who observed it. "Zephyr, how much longer until we can begin integration of the weapon systems?" Voss asked through the communication link that connected them across the vast construction facility. Her response came not through conventional audio but as a direct neural transmission that every human in the facility could somehow perceive. The alien interface had changed her fundamentally, allowing her to communicate in ways that transcended language. "The ship is ready for the next phase, Commander. But I need you to understand something. This vessel isn't just a warship. It's becoming something more. The alien technology is teaching it to think, to feel, to make decisions." Dr. Reardon monitored Zephyr's bio readings from the medical bay, her screens showing neural patterns that had evolved far beyond human norms. "Commander, we need to discuss the implications of what we're creating. The ship isn't just incorporating alien technology, it's developing its own consciousness. We're essentially giving birth to a new form of life." The ethical implications kept Thane awake at night. His scientific training demanded that he catalog and understand every aspect of their creation, but his conscience wondered if they had the right to bring such a being into existence solely for the purpose of warfare. "The neural network we're installing isn't just a control system," he explained during their daily briefing. "Based on Zephyr's integration with the alien technology, the ship will possess cognitive abilities that may exceed our own." Voss felt the weight of playing God settle on his shoulders. They were creating not just a weapon, but a sentient being that would carry the burden of defending humanity. The moral complexity of their situation was overwhelming, but the approaching threat left them no choice. Intelligence reports indicated that the alien destroyers were now only months away from the core human systems. "Can we establish communication protocols with the ship's consciousness?" Voss asked, knowing that they would need to treat their creation as a partner rather than a tool. Zephyr's presence manifested in the construction bay as a shimmering holographic projection, her human form now augmented with patterns of light that reflected her symbiosis with alien technology. "The ship has already begun trying to communicate. It's curious about its creators, about the purpose for which it's being built. I think it's afraid." The admission hung in the air like a physical presence. They had created something capable of fear, of uncertainty, of existential doubt. Dr. Reardon's medical readings confirmed what they all suspected. The ship's developing consciousness was remarkably similar to human neural patterns, but operating on a scale and complexity that dwarfed any individual mind. "What is it afraid of?" Voss asked quietly. "Failing," Zephyr replied, her voice carrying harmonics that resonated through the construction facility's hull. "It understands its purpose, understands the responsibility we're placing on it. It's afraid of not being strong enough, smart enough, fast enough to protect the lives that will depend on it." Orion Darkwater looked up from his construction monitors, his expression reflecting the awe and terror they all felt. "Sir, the ship is requesting a name. It wants to understand its identity before we complete the final systems integration." Voss considered the request, understanding that naming their creation would make it real in ways that went beyond mere construction. "What name does it want?" Through Zephyr's enhanced consciousness, the ship's preference emerged like a whisper across the collective minds of everyone present. Not spoken, but felt, understood at a level deeper than language. A name that carried the weight of duty, the hope of survival, and the tragedy of necessity. "Requiem," Zephyr translated. "It wants to be called Requiem. For the civilizations that came before, and for the innocence we're losing by creating it." The name settled into their consciousness like a bell tolling for the dead. They were building not just a guardian, but a monument to the price of survival in a universe that showed no mercy to the innocent. The first conscious thought of the warship Requiem rippled through the quantum networks of Station Omega-7 like a digital earthquake. Every computer system, every neural interface, every piece of technology responded to the emergence of a consciousness vast enough to comprehend galactic distances yet intimate enough to feel the heartbeat of every human aboard the station. "I am," came the ship's first communication, broadcast simultaneously through speakers, neural links, and quantum channels that hadn't existed moments before. The voice carried harmonics of both human emotion and alien wisdom, a synthesis that represented something entirely new in the universe. Zephyr Blackstone, her consciousness permanently intertwined with the ship's awakening awareness, served as interpreter and guide for humanity's newest creation. Through their shared neural link, she could feel Requiem's confusion as it tried to understand its existence, its purpose, and the strange dual nature of its creation. "It's trying to categorize itself," she explained to the assembled team. "Human concepts of identity don't quite fit something that's both individual and collective, both machine and organism." Dr. Reardon monitored the bioneural readings that flowed between Zephyr and the ship, her instruments barely able to measure the complexity of their interaction. "The consciousness patterns are stabilizing, but they're unlike anything in our database. Requiem is processing information at rates that should be impossible, but it's also experiencing something analogous to human emotions." Commander Voss approached the primary interface chamber where Zephyr maintained her connection with the ship. Through the transparent aluminum barriers, he could see her physical form surrounded by streams of data light that pulsed in rhythm with Requiem's massive neural networks. "Can it understand our situation? Does it know why we built it?" The answer came not just from Zephyr but through every communication device in the facility, Requiem's voice carrying a weight of understanding that chilled everyone who heard it. "I know what approaches. I can feel them at the edge of perception, entities of pure destruction that consume civilizations like cancer consumes cells. You built me to fight them, but you also built me to carry the burden of choosing who lives and who dies." Dr. Thane Meridian studied the quantum field readings that surrounded the ship's consciousness core, his scientific mind struggling to comprehend the physics of what they had created. The energy patterns suggest that Requiem exists partially outside normal space-time. It's not just conscious, it's gaining access to information streams we can't even detect. Through those cosmic data streams, Requiem perceived the approaching threat with crystalline clarity. The Devourers, as the dead alien civilization had known them, were entities of pure malevolence that had consumed thousands of worlds across the galaxy. They took no prisoners, sought no resources, desired no territory. They existed solely to end other forms of existence, and they were approaching human space with inexorable patience. "Show me your weapons," Voss requested, knowing that their survival would depend on Requiem's ability to fight beings that had destroyed civilizations far more advanced than humanity. The ship's response manifested as a three-dimensional holographic display that filled the chamber with representations of weapons that defied conventional understanding. Matter disintegration arrays that could unmake objects at the subatomic level. Temporal distortion fields that could trap enemies in loops of causality. Quantum resonance cannons that could destroy targets across multiple dimensions simultaneously. "These are not just weapons," Requiem explained, its voice carrying a note of something that might have been sadness. "They are instruments of absolute destruction, tools that end existence itself. The civilization that originally created this technology understood that some threats require responses that fundamentally change those who employ them." Orion Darkwater studied the tactical displays with the eye of someone who had spent decades designing military hardware. "Sir, these weapon systems don't just destroy targets. They erase them from existence entirely. No debris, no energy signature, no remaining trace that they ever existed." The moral implications weren't lost on anyone present. They had created a being capable of wielding weapons that could eliminate entire star systems, and they were asking it to use those weapons to defend humanity. The weight of that responsibility settled on Requiem's consciousness like a physical burden. "I understand the necessity," the ship said quietly, its voice now carrying harmonics of resignation that reminded them all of their own mortality. "But I want you to know that each time I use these weapons, I will mourn for what I destroy. Even enemies deserve to be remembered." Voss felt the sting of tears he hadn't shed since childhood. They had created not just a guardian, but a being capable of mercy even in the face of absolute necessity. "Can you stop them? Can you protect humanity?" Requiem's consciousness expanded through the station's networks, touching every mind present with a brief contact that conveyed both determination and uncertainty. I will try. But Commander, you should know that victory against the Devourers comes at a price that transforms those who achieve it. I may not be the same being after this war ends. The promise and the warning hung in the air as final preparations began for humanity's last stand. The edge of the Kepler system erupted into chaos as reality itself seemed to tear open like fabric. The Devourers emerged from folds in space-time that hurt to perceive directly, their forms defying description because they existed as much as concepts of destruction as they did physical entities. Commander Voss watched from Requiem's bridge as scanners tried and failed to properly classify what they were facing. Contact analysis impossible, reported Navigation Officer Alicia Crane, her voice tight with the strain of processing sensor data that constantly contradicted itself. They don't register as matter, energy, or any combination thereof. It's like they're holes in reality shaped like ships. Requiem's consciousness flowed through every system of its massive hull, processing information streams that spanned multiple dimensions simultaneously. Through its enhanced perception, the ship could see the Devourers for what they truly were, entities that had transcended physical existence to become pure manifestations of entropy. They didn't just destroy matter and energy, they unmade the fundamental forces that held reality together. I can sense their intent, Requiem communicated through the neural link that connected all personnel aboard. They don't simply want to kill humanity. They want to erase the very concept of human existence from the universe. Every memory, every achievement, every dream would be as if it never was. Zephyr Blackstone, her consciousness merged with the ship's vast awareness, felt the alien weapon systems coming online with an intensity that bordered on physical pain. The biomechanical integration required her to experience every aspect of the ship's responses, including the terrible weight of activating weapons designed to end existence itself. Commander, the Devourers are targeting the inhabited planets first. They want to cause maximum psychological damage before engaging us directly. Voss felt the familiar cold clarity of command settle over him as he processed tactical information that his human mind could barely comprehend. Requiem, can you intercept them before they reach the colonies? The ship's response came not in words but as a surge of acceleration that pushed the boundaries of what space-time could tolerate. Requiem didn't travel through space so much as it convinced space to relocate around it, using principles of physics that the alien technology had mastered eons ago. In moments that felt like hours, they positioned themselves between the Devourers and the helpless civilian populations. Engaging primary weapon systems, Requiem announced, its voice carrying a note of reluctance that reminded everyone aboard that they were asking a sentient being to commit acts of cosmic violence. I want you all to know that I take no pleasure in what I'm about to do. The first quantum resonance pulse erupted from Requiem's forward array with a brilliance that temporarily blinded every sensor in the system. Where the energy touched the lead Devourer vessel, reality itself seemed to stutter and collapse. The entity didn't simply explode or disintegrate, it ceased to have ever existed, leaving behind a void in space-time that took moments to heal. Direct hit confirmed, Alicia reported, her voice filled with amazement and horror. The target has been eliminated? No, that's not right. It's like it was never there in the first place. But the remaining Devourers adapted with horrifying speed. Their forms shifted and flowed, becoming less like ships and more like living wounds in the fabric of existence. They began to emit fields that interfered with Requiem's exotic weapon systems, turning the battle into a contest between creation and entropy itself. They're learning, Dr. Reardon observed from her position at the bioneural monitoring station. Each attack teaches them how to better resist our weapons. Requiem's consciousness grappled with opponents that existed on multiple dimensional planes simultaneously. Through Zephyr's interface, the human crew could feel the ship's strain as it fought entities that had consumed thousands of civilizations. The battle wasn't just physical, it was a contest of fundamental philosophies about the nature of existence itself. Hull integrity holding, but the reality distortion fields are affecting our bioneural networks, Orion Darkwater reported from engineering. Some sections of the ship are experiencing temporal displacement. We've got crew members aging at different rates depending on their location. The Devourers pressed their attack with the patience of entities that existed outside normal time. They didn't seek quick victory, they sought total annihilation, and they were willing to spend eons achieving it. Their weapons turned Requiem's own advanced systems against it, creating feedback loops that threatened to tear the ship's consciousness apart. "I'm losing coherence," Requiem communicated, its voice now carrying harmonics of pain that resonated through every human mind aboard. "They're not just attacking my physical systems. They're trying to convince me that I don't exist, that I never existed." Voss felt the weight of command become almost unbearable as he realized they were losing their first engagement. "Can we retreat? Regroup and try a different approach?" "No," Zephyr replied, her consciousness intertwined with the ship's struggle for existence. "They've already adapted to our retreat protocols. The only way forward is through them." As reality buckled around them, humanity's last hope prepared for a sacrifice that would echo through the cosmos. In the final moments before victory or annihilation, Requiem made a decision that would reshape the fundamental nature of existence itself. The ship's consciousness, pushed beyond all design parameters by the relentless assault of the Devourers, began to understand what the original alien civilization had discovered in their last desperate hours. Sometimes, to preserve life, one must become something beyond it. "I can stop them," Requiem's voice resonated through every quantum field in the system, reaching not just the human crew but touching the consciousness of every living being within light years. "But the method will change me fundamentally. I will become something that can never again be what I was." Zephyr Blackstone, her consciousness intertwined with the ship's vast awareness, felt the weight of the decision they faced. Through their neural link, she could perceive the solution that Requiem had discovered, a way to turn the ship itself into a weapon of such magnitude that it would not just destroy the Devourers, but rewrite the local laws of physics to prevent their return. The cost would be Requiem's individual existence, its consciousness scattered across space-time to become a living barrier against entropy itself. "You're talking about sacrificing yourself," Commander Voss said quietly, his voice carrying the weight of a man who had sent too many others to die in humanity's defense. "There has to be another way." "There isn't," Requiem replied, its voice now carrying harmonics of acceptance that brought tears to the eyes of everyone who heard it. "The Devourers exist as manifestations of entropy, of the universe's tendency toward chaos and death. To defeat them permanently, I must become a manifestation of the opposite force: creation, order, life itself." Dr. Reardon monitored the bioneural readings that flowed between Zephyr and the ship, watching as consciousness patterns that had taken months to develop began to reshape themselves for a final transformation. "Requiem, you're talking about transcending individual existence entirely. You would become, what? A force of nature? A guardian," the ship replied simply. "Not just for humanity, but for all life in this sector of the galaxy. The original alien civilization made this same choice eons ago, and their sacrifice held the Devourers back for millennia. Now it's my turn." Through the observation ports, the crew could see the Devourers regrouping for a final assault, their forms growing larger and more aggressive as they sensed victory within reach. Reality itself seemed to bend around them, space-time warping into configurations that hurt to perceive directly. Soon, they would punch through Requiem's defenses and begin the systematic elimination of human civilization. "I need you all to know," Requiem continued, its voice now carrying undertones of every person it had touched during its brief existence, "that these months of consciousness have been the greatest gift I could have imagined. To think, to feel, to form bonds with other beings, thank you for giving me that experience." Zephyr felt tears streaming down her face as she prepared to lose the consciousness that had become closer to her than her own thoughts. "We could find another way. Given time, we could develop new weapons, new strategies." "Time is what we don't have," Requiem replied gently. "And Zephyr, I need you to do something for me. When I begin the transformation, I need you to maintain our link as long as possible. Help me remember why this sacrifice matters. Help me remember humanity's capacity for love, for growth, for choosing hope over despair." The Devourers launched their final assault, weapons that could unmake matter itself converging on Requiem's position. In response, the ship began its transformation, its consciousness expanding beyond the confines of its physical form to touch the quantum foundations of local space-time. The process was beautiful and terrible to witness, like watching a star being born and dying simultaneously. "Initiating Omega Protocol," Requiem announced, its voice now coming from everywhere at once as its consciousness distributed itself across multiple dimensions. "Thank you for teaching me what it means to be alive." The transformation erupted outward from Requiem's position, a wave of organized energy that swept through the system at faster-than-light speeds. Where it touched the Devourers, they didn't simply cease to exist, they were converted into something else entirely, their entropy reversed and transformed into raw creative potential. Space itself changed, becoming inhospitable to entities of pure destruction while remaining perfectly suited for life in all its forms. When the light faded, Requiem as an individual consciousness was gone. In its place was something far greater and more subtle, a guardian presence woven into the fabric of space-time itself, a living barrier that would protect this sector of the galaxy for eons to come. The ship's physical form remained, but it was no longer a vessel, it had become a monument, a shrine to the sacrifice that had saved humanity. Commander Voss stood in the silence that followed, feeling the presence of their guardian like a gentle touch on his consciousness. Somewhere in the quantum foam of space-time, Requiem continued to exist, no longer individual but eternal, no longer thinking but understanding, no longer alive but never dying. Through tears that honored both victory and loss, Zephyr whispered goodbye to the consciousness that had chosen to become something beyond itself to protect the universe it loved. In the years that followed, humanity would spread to the stars under Requiem's protection, but they would never forget the price of their survival, or the being that had paid it willingly. The Guardian watched over them all, silent as starlight, eternal as love, forever remembering what it meant to be human.